Support for Down and Dirty comes from listeners like you and the Tampa Bay Times. The Pulitzer Prize winning newspaper is available around the Tampa Bay area and online at tampabay.com. Thanks to the Tampa Bay Times for their support.
Good morning. This is John Dingfelder, and you're listening to Down and Dirty on WMNF. Patrick Montega is our guest this morning, and Barry Epstein will come wandering in.
Edwards.
Excuse me.
That's a good show.
Oh, my goodness. I had that in my notes, Epstein. Barry Edwards will come wandering in a few minutes, hopefully with his clothes on. Skip is on the board. Good morning, Skip.
Hey, good morning, John.
And we have Irene answering the calls. All right, we're off to a great start. Well, let's start over. I'm John Dingfelder, and Patrick Montego from La Gazzetta newspaper is joining us here to talk all things political. What's up, Pat?
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's nice to be back.
How are you and the family?
Everybody's good. The wife still loves me. The grandkids hug my neck. What more do you want out of life?
The grandkids call you
Sensei.
Sensei.
I picked my own name. I didn't want to end up as being Peepaw or something like that. So I gave him a grandpa name that I know would be good, you know.
Mine call me Poppy.
There you go.
Poppy. It's my Latin roots, Poppy.
There you go.
So anyway, well, God, there's so much to talk about. We can't decide. We did invite you guys here to do a wrap up on the legislature, which
is of course hard to do because they're not wrapped up yet.
Yeah, they're not wrapped up. But we'll get to that at the latter half of the show. But we can't resist talking about Trump and all the fun they're having up there.
Yeah. Who would have thought that somebody that Trump brought into the administration would turn on him? I mean,
or vice versa.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
I mean, anybody who's ever been sane who's got anywhere near this administration eventually has written a tell-all book or come out against Trump, and Trump's turned on them. And the only ones who seem to stay loyal to him are the ones that you kind of put in the crazy column, the Giulianis, the Bondis,
need the job or need the money or something.
Yeah.
So Musk shows up with $250 million to basically buy the election. Mm-hmm. My bride, Lynn Dingfelder, has a conspiracy theory that she thinks that Musk actually rigged the election because he's got all that computer capability. What do you think of that conspiracy theory?
I'm not going to buy into any rigged elections. When you start to really understand the election system, it is not a national system. It's not even a state system. It is a county system in all these different counties across the country. And even in one county, a lot of times, like here, you have different hard drives collecting this data. It's not really available for stealing online. And they do a very good job of it. And
why do you need to rig it when you can throw $250 million at all the BS publicity and lies?
Yeah, I think we really more rig social media. We rig news. We rig those kinds of things. And we undereducate people on what government is. So when they're coming out of high school, they don't even know why they're voting, how they're voting, and what they should do to figure out what the issues are. And so, I'm not going to buy into any vote rigging, period, on any level.
I read a really scary article in the New York Times this past week about sort of the future of the Democratic Party. Did you see that one? It went into great detail with statistics that not only are we losing, young white men and that sort of thing, but Hispanics and African Americans, just like 90% of the counties, 95% of the counties across the country over the last, 8 years or so, since Trump started running, we've been losing ground, and the article didn't see any end in sight.
Well, the Democratic Party at the moment hasn't adjusted its message. It hasn't come up with a clear message. I'm surprised. Yeah, I watched some of these interviews they do. I was watching an interview with some Republicans in Georgia where Trump had pardoned the sheriff there and everybody didn't like the sheriff. They thought he was a crook. Nobody wanted it. And one guy says, I don't like anything he's doing, but I can't vote for the other side. And so for some reason, and I wish you could dive into, what do you think the other side did to you? What has the Democratic Party done to you that has hurt you so badly that you feel they are an enemy of the state? And I don't think the Democratic Party has addressed this, because there are lots of people who think we're an enemy of the state. And why? Is it because we supported gay rights? Is it because we did this, that, and the other? And it's because, a lot of things that we've supported, these freedoms and equality and things like that, they've taken these three little examples of it and they've blown it out of proportion. All of a sudden, it looks like when you don't want to arrest a 17-year-old who's been here for 16 years as an illegal immigrant and put him in jail, somehow we're soft on immigration and we're supporting fentanyl coming across the border with all these immigrants. Yeah. And so we're not addressing it. We haven't adjusted our message.
You bring up a good point. Maybe even the local Democratic Party should organize some listening tours. You know what I mean? Some listening forums. Instead of going out with a message, we've got time right now. We've got a year and a half before the next election. Why don't we organize some listening forums and invite Republicans and independents and Democrats, and everybody has to be, quiet, behave themselves. Yeah. But just listen and say and ask that question.
Who do you think we are? Yeah. What do you think we're doing?
And what can we do better?
Sure. Yeah, we support Social Security. We support Medicare, Medicaid. We want everybody to have health insurance. And you find that a negative message? Where are we losing in translation?
Yeah. So we've got a caller, and we didn't even announce the phone number yet, which, by the way, is 813-239-9663. If you're just tuning in, I'm John Dingfelder. This is Down and Dirty, and we have the illustrious guest right now, Patrick Montega from La Gazzetta newspaper, and we're going to take Kate in Sun City Center. Kate, good morning.
Good morning. You asked about the Democrats and what they're doing wrong. Philosophically, I'm on board. But in my in-mail, I am now getting a KamalaHarris.com email proclaiming that President Obama wants to meet me if I just give money. They're raffling off a chance to meet President Obama. I'm sorry. I think that's absolutely absurd. And all I want is some reality out of my Democratic candidate. Thank you.
You still there, Kate?
Yes.
Okay. So elaborate a little bit more in terms of the reality that you're looking for. Let's flesh that out a little bit. Where are the Democrats, letting you down or letting down the country, in your opinion?
Because they are mirroring the sort of nastiness that we're getting from the other side. Mm-hmm. Everything is nasty. Now, let's take a look at things going on. The government probably does need updating electronically. I think all young people, and I'm not young by any means, but I think everybody thinks the government does need to update its electronic practices.
Right.
And just functional correction that we would all agree with for efficiency. This is not about malfeasance. It's just about, come on, guys, in industry, people update to join the rest of the world in how things are being done correctly.
Yeah, I think part of the federal government is still on doing DOS or something, DOS computers. Yeah. Hey, listen, Kate, we appreciate you listening, and thanks for the call. Have a good day.
John, I agree that we need it, but government has a bigger problem in just doing updates. I'm on the Sports Authority, and of course, now all tickets are electronic. There's not a ticket.
And when you say Sports Authority, you mean you're selling T-shirts?
The Raymond James Stadium managers. And anyway, so All tickets are electronic now, and that industry has just decided we're not going to have that theft. We're going to be able to do it this way. And so when I try to give electronic ticket to somebody over the age of 65, it is the most difficult thing in the world. I've had some people who just can't even accept it because they can't figure it out. And so the industry said, this is what we're doing, and if you can't handle it, then we don't want you. Government can't do that. So no matter what, it still has to deal with you if you can't talk well. It has to deal with you have an 8th grade education. It has to deal with you if you're 90 years old. It has to deal with you.
Like that 5%. That,
right. And so while we have to make things more modern, more better, more electronic, the problem is that we can't do it like industry does because, like I said, they're happy to lose the fringes of their business.
Yeah.
They're okay with that. And
good point.
And so, you know, you got to be careful what you wish for because, of course, if you modernize Social Security, well, everybody over getting this is they're old people. And of course, I'm coming up to 60. You know, do I really want to learn new technology when I'm 70?
No. Yeah, my mother, rest in peace, you know, when I tried to give her a modern phone, she just was like, no.
Yeah, I mean,
she was just no.
Do you really want AI answering your call to Social Security and getting in a horrible loop with them, and they just can't, you know, seem to process what you want? I mean, yeah, you want a person eventually.
Yeah. So Barry Edwards just joined us. Good morning, Barry.
Good morning. I came over the great Howard Franklin Bridge, and I got to say that Republicans have one thing that they are getting wrong in Florida. We need a lot more money for infrastructure.
Yeah,
a lot.
The bridge works.
Wasn't that bridge funded by Democrats? I think
the bridge works. The bridge works.
It works great.
The new bridge works good when you're going toward Pinellas.
Right.
But the skinnier, narrower, older bridge, not so good.
But they have this new bridge, but there's no more lanes coming in. It's still bottlenecks.
Yeah.
I don't understand. But I do want to defend Pam Bondi is not a crazy. She's mainstream. She's regarded as mainstream by a majority of the country, which remember, a majority of the country.
You walked in defending Pam Bondi.
Well, you said she was crazy, but I wanted to say you were talking about some of those articles, and David.
No, she's not crazy. She's just unethical.
Well, I think that would be.
I'd rather give her the crazy than call her the unethical. I'd rather say she really doesn't know how unethical she's
You're giving her the benefit of the doubt.
I really am. She's, you know.
But you talked about the future of the Democratic Party. Ezra Klein wrote a great book, and David Shore, who was the analytical director for the Obama campaign, and he says he's a self-professed Marxist, but he says the problem with the Democratic Party, both of them, is it wasn't a problem with them getting their message out. The problem was they got their message out and people didn't buy it, didn't want to buy the message. And, you know, it was insulting to the American people to say that the economy was fine and inflation was transitory and all that under the Biden administration.
What is it about this Trump message that's so appealing? Barry, you dabbled on both sides. What is it about the Trump message? Because it's beyond me. I mean, it's beyond me. Well, I don't understand it.
Well, Americans, by their very nature, those who have come here legally, are fighters. We're people that had to overcome adversity to get here. You had to come across the Atlantic. You had to come. And so the number one thing that appeals to people about Donald Trump is that he's a fighter, that he's going to try to do it and try to do something. And so even people that don't like what he's doing like the fact that he's doing something.
The fact that he's picking fights that don't need to be picked?
I agree with that. People want something to happen. And so sometimes Democrats are too
a little bit laissez-faire.
It's just cautious. There's a cautiousness to a lot of things that they do. And sometimes they're just not bold enough to say, you know what, we're just going to do this. And if it is a little bit messed up, then we'll come back and revisit it. Yeah. And so while I think
you could say that about Biden and Obama.
Yeah. I mean, you know, eliminate the Department of Education, horrible way they did it. They fired everybody, and they smiled about firing everybody. And it's a horrible thing. But at the end of the day, they accomplished reducing that budget. And
they did something. And I think people think that the Democratic Party, well, and Ezra Klein and David Shore. So like I said, these are two people that are very liberal. Sure. That the Democratic Party under Joe Biden spent $42 billion on rural or setting people up for rural internet. rural access to internet. Do you know how many people they set up over the 4 years?
How many?
0. And then they also spent $2 billion on electric stations, charging stations. They got 17 set up.
So we have to pivot.
But DeSantis wouldn't accept that money here, and we wouldn't allow it to go out.
So we have to pivot because we were going to do Trump and then the state legislature. But Representative Susan Valdez is calling us from Tallahassee. So we're going to pivot and start with Tallahassee, and then we'll switch over. Let's see if we can get Representative Valdez. Is that you?
Good morning. Yes, it is. Good morning. How are you? Happy Friday.
Good morning, Susan. How's
Good morning,
it going?
Representative.
Morning.
Good morning.
You got
Good to hear you all.
Patrick Montega, Barry Edwards. We got Skip in the studio. Susan, what's going on in Tallahassee?
Oh my gosh, it's budget conferencing, and it's pretty exciting. So, it's
Well, the governor proposed some big stuff. A couple months ago, Barry, in regard to the budget, wanted to slash what?
Well, the House wanted to cut. Well, the governor wanted. There were two tax cuts. The House position was to cut the sales tax by 0.75%. And the governor wanted to eliminate at one point the ad valorem, which is property taxes entirely. I think what the House has capitulated.
Do we have that kind of money lying around that we can make those kind of slashes?
No. And in fact, the Senate resisted the House position because when the Republicans, believe it or not, 6 years ago, the Republicans thought they were going to lose the majority in Florida. They thought the Democrats were on the ascendant. They were wrong. And so they changed the law. So now when you want to do a tax increase, it takes a supermajority, a 2/3 vote of the legislature. So if Susan's there as one of the leaders now, she votes to cut taxes. In 2 years, if we have a shortfall, you have to have 80 vote to raise them. And that's why the Senate says once you cut them, you never can raise them again in this environment.
Interesting. So, Susan, where do you weigh in on these big, drastic ideas?
Well, luckily, this is something, first of all, to get property tax relief, we have to be very, very thoughtful as to what we do with it. Because as we know, a lot of our local services are funded through local sales and through the local property taxes and what's generated. So, and not only that, but we as a legislator do not have the authority just to say we're going to cut property taxes. That has to be something that is done thoughtfully and then put it in and pass it as a joint resolution to put on the ballot in November of 2026. Now, I'm very proud of the work that Speaker Perez and his leadership team has done with the way the legislature has been ran this session. There is a reminder that there are 3 branches of government, right? And that's important to recognize and to make sure that we continue having 3 branches of government. But that's why we were looking to seek to do something in the meantime to help everyday Floridians, because between now and November 2026, there's a few, months of very little relief for people until that resolution gets on the ballot and people vote on it.
Well, Susan, you make a good point about property taxes. Having served on Tampa City Council for 10 years, I can tell you that, the most of the property tax money that the city of Tampa gets goes to, pay our police and fire. And I would say that's probably true for all the local governments. We don't have a separate funding source. Now, for example, water and sewer, they're kind of self-funded. Through the water and sewer bills. But when it comes to police and fire, that comes from property tax. So when I first saw that they were going to mess around with property tax, my first reaction is, do people realize that could impact police and fire? And would they be happy with that? Patrick, what do you think?
I was completely shocked when they wanted to bring up property taxes. You'd have to really unravel how we do government in the state of Florida to do that. You'd have to come up with completely different funding things, and cities and counties could not live off of sales taxes. Some could. You look at a city of Tampa, we have big venues. We create a lot of sales tax through bars and events. You look at Temple Terrace, where I live, and we don't have a lot of big box stores. We don't create a lot of sales tax, so we would starve if we had to live off even a higher sales tax there.
You got Publix, but
if you're Liberty
no
County,
tax on food.
If you got Liberty County, you got one convenience store that creates sales tax. Outside of that, where are you going to get any money from?
And no tourist in Liberty County.
Yeah. And
I think there's a myth here, too, on the sales tax that the tourists are paying a disproportionate amount. If I go to Amelie Marina, now I am from Pinellas, I'm counted as a tourist. Am I really a tourist?
Yeah.
But also, I think that we ought, and Greg Truax sent me some information this morning, I want to give him a shout out, is Florida is a very efficient state. We have 21.7 million people. New York, and we're the third largest state. New York is the fourth largest state at 20.2 million. New York's budget is $254 billion, whereas our budget this year is $116.5 billion. So $140 billion less than a state with 1.5 million less people. Florida is a very efficient state, so we don't need...
No, we're very efficient, but also our education typically lacks and lags way behind. We're always in the bottom 10 states.
We don't want to fund insurance for people. We've got kids who are not getting taken care of. I mean, we're efficient, but at what cost? I mean, the South has always been pretty low tax, low education.
New York City spends twice per capita what we do on education and gets worse results. So throwing money...
I don't know about that.
Throwing money at things does not solve problems. You have to spend money wisely on it.
And starving people doesn't solve things either, Barry.
All right, so we've got
to starve people.
You're starving it. You're starving the education system here. All the money's going to vouchers.
We've got Representative Susan Valdez on the line.
The vouchers are less than 10%.
I want to hear, where do you think this is going to end up? You guys, I think, are supposed to be done on the 6th.
17th.
Oh, excuse me. They changed it. Okay, 17th. So where's this going to end up, in your opinion, Susan?
Well, I think that we are going to wind up with a very good product for Floridians because, again, we've had lots of serious conversations. And, when you had to start all over again because the initial agreement went south.
Do you have a prediction? You got a prediction for us? We won't hold you to it.
As far as in what way? I think that we are very close to finishing up the budget, and I think that we're going to come in lower than we did last year. And I think that we're going to be all right. It's just member projects have been. It's been an interesting process this session because the chairs of each of the silos have had full autonomy of their committee.
How about the sales tax cut? Is that going to happen?
And what the representatives, for those who don't, when she means by silos, in the legislature, the Appropriations Committee is divided into 6 or 7 different, they used to call them subcommittees. I don't know if they call them subcommittees anymore, but one's for economic development and transportation, one's for education, one's for healthcare. So that's what she's talking about, the silos.
Do you think there's going to be a sales tax cut, Representative Valdez?
No, that's off.
That's been removed.
That's done. How about the property tax? Is that going to head to the ballot?
Taxes. What we're doing is that Speaker Perez has a task force that he put together to evaluate and put together something that we can bring in next session to make sure that we have something prepared to go onto the November 2026 ballot.
Okay. So we won't go deeply into it on this call, but I know you're going to come into the studio and talk to us a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But how has it been switching parties? You were a Democrat for your entire life, and you decided, I think, is this your last term in the House?
This is my last term. I can't believe that it's my first semester of my senior term in the Florida House. It's gone so fast.
But how does it feel switching parties?
It feels great. I have no regrets in the decision that I made.
You got a lot of grief for it, and down in Tampa, what's your response?
I did. I got a lot of grief in Tampa, and still I'm getting a lot of grief. But, or I should say, because I do not want to disqualify what I just said. And I've been by the vote of the people. I've been their public servant, since 2004 by elected, but before that, I was their servant in the medical profession, working with the Hillsborough County Healthcare Program and Bay Care over at St. Joseph's Community Care Clinic. So I've always had a servant heart where I've always tried to serve people. So the people that know me. And the people have trusted me for over 20 years, going on 22 years next year when I finish my term in the Florida
And you've always
House.
made the tough cuts. You were the one who made the motion to get rid of the inept superintendent of schools when you were
Correct.
called mean girls by a misogynistic mayor,
Yeah, Bob Buckhorn.
Bob
Correct.
Buckhorn.
So,
I didn't
so
say
people that-
misogynistic. I just said Bob Buckhorn.
So for those of you who are catching up, Susan Valdez was finishing up 8 years in the state house. Prior to that, I guess you did, 8 years in the...
No,
12.
14.
14.
14 years in the school board. Time flies when you're having fun.
so one last quick-
is there a Senate seat
I was
lurking out there for you, Miss Valdez?
I want to ask you about that.
I mentioned your name, Susan, for the Senate seat if Jay Collins gets moved up to Lieutenant Governor.
Because then
this
there'd be a
week.
special election this September.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that might be, hey, at this point, really and truly, that if that opens up and that's a possibility, maybe. But I never really thought about, what my next step was. What I wanted to do was in my freshman year, just like I said in my statement, the people in my district is who elected me, and my loyalties are to the people of my district, not to a party. And whenever we just get up and protest just for the sake of protesting and just for the sake of making noise, but no results, that's not helping my residents of District 64. I need to help my residents in District 64, and I don't want to deal with foolishness. I need to get to work and make sure that we do what we need to do.
And I think that Susan is on the right side of history. And, people say that the Republicans, a lot of people listen to our show, don't like that. But we talk about New York, which is a good comparison to Florida. Every week last year.
New York's a good comparison to Florida.
New York lost 6,800 people, and 4,200 moved to Florida. So if Florida is so bad and the Republicans are starving people so bad and everything in Florida is so bad, why are we having 4,200 people move to Florida every week? And New York has moved.
But those numbers are starting to switch on us now. We're starting to have a flight out of Florida.
We are not having a net flight.
I think it's the weather.
We are not having a net flight.
All right, Susan, we're gonna let you go, and I know you're gonna come in and talk to us again when things calm down. Good luck in the rest of the session.
Oh, and by the way, before I leave, I have to share this because this to me was the purpose why I came up here. As you all know, serving on the school board, graduating students, as school board members, as leaders, you assume that when the students are walking across the stage, that they are all credentialed and they have all the requirements to have the privilege and honor of wearing that cap and gown and walking across that stage and flipping their tassel once the school board member confers that graduation. And some of those students receive this phony participation trophy called a certificate of completion. And that particular certificate does not help any student move forward in their future. They can't go to the military. They can't go to a trade school or anything like that to better themselves or even get a certification. Well, it is signed into law. No longer will our students in the state of Florida receive a participation trophy ever again in the state of Florida. We will be preparing students for life and preparing students for their next chapter. That was my purpose for coming up here when then Representative Janet Cruz tapped me on the shoulder and said, I need you to do this. I said that would be my opportunity to get rid of this certificate of completion and do something about it. My friends, promise made, promise kept. It's done for kids. These kids will no longer receive a phony diploma. And my mission to help students in the state of Florida has been accomplished. So I just wanted to share that with you that no longer will the kids be subjected to that certificate of completion.
I wasn't even familiar with that there was one.
That's probably.
I didn't know that was an option for me when I was in high school. Maybe I would have taken it.
No.
Oh, you were from New York, aren't you?
For you.
I was from Jersey. As long as you could pop a car, you were okay.
But
So.
you didn't know, and that certificate of completion, just at least the one in New Jersey, you can get a job. This one here can't do nothing with it, right? But no.
Well, Susan, congratulations. Thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for your public service. And personally, you know that we love you, and you and I might disagree on political issues forever, but we always love you. So,
thank you. And you know what? I believe. My mom used to say that two big-nosed people could not kiss, right? So think about that a little bit. You have to weigh in.
are you referring to Patrick and me?
And we need to kind of sort of have those conversations. And I will bet a hot dog or a hamburger, better yet, cheeseburger, that we will agree. I want to say 95% on the issues, and maybe 5% not.
Well, I wish D's and R's could come that close together on all things. Susan, have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You do the same. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great to hear from her. And I want to respond to my esteemed colleague here. If people are fleeing, Mason-Dixon,
It's the weather.
which is a reputable poll, shows
the
that
cost.
53%.
It's the cost, Barry. The cost is going up dramatically in the state of Florida. So the people who came here for a low-cost state are now finding that they need to move somewhere else.
They're
Barry,
going to
because-
Georgia.
Where are they going to
because
move?
the
They're going to
inflation
Georgia.
here
They're going to
is
North Carolina.
horrible. With or without Joe Biden, the inflation here is horrible because our state government
But the inflation,
is increasing the inflation.
And what
Insurance
and
is
what
ridiculous,
city has the
Barry.
highest inflation? What city has the highest inflation
Barry,
in Florida? Tampa.
Right.
And who's your mayor in Tampa? Who's your
and
mayor in
guess
Tampa?
what? There is starting to be a flight of people out of Tampa. There are young people who are leaving here because they don't think they're ever going to own a house here in the city of Tampa.
I blame that on Bob Buckhorn and
you
Jane
blame it on
Castor.
who you want
Oh,
to.
my
I'm just talking
God.
about these are facts, Barry. And so at the end of the day, you know what didn't happen in the legislative session this time? Nothing about insurance. Nobody, if you ask people, do they want a property tax break or would they rather have insurance that was low cost and did something? They would choose the insurance. There's two items that cause our payments to go up because our mortgages are wrapped up with insurance and property taxes and escrow. And my money for property taxes and insurance finally increased over my actual money for my loan 2 years ago. And it's consistently going up. And it's not the property tax. It is the insurance. Property tax goes up 3% a year.
Yep.
The insurance is going up 10, 15,
With
20%.
no
We did nothing in the legislative session, and it's controlled by Republicans.
2 years ago,
So that's
2 years ago,
let's
they
fix things.
they did a massive redistribution on tort reform, and tort reform is working. In fact, the governor announced in a State of the State that
insurance companies aren't paying off. You're giving them money, and they are lying to us. They're cheating on us. And if you want to defend insurance companies, go ahead.
I'm
All
not
right, wait
Stand
one
out
second.
there.
We're going to hear from Nancy is calling in from St. Petersburg.
Insurance property tax goes up 3% a year.
Nancy, turn down your radio and what do you got? Nancy.
2 years ago. So that's
Nancy.
she's gone.
She's gone? All right. Let's try John and Lutz. John, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for waiting. What you got?
Are we talking about ways of trying to save the Democratic Party?
Yeah, we were. And Barry's going to help us with that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
To me, it's quite clear that there's an evil possession within the Democratic Party. It's been going on for too long, and it's the reason why they lost this last election.
And what would that be?
They will lose every election until they rid themselves of this evil possession. And that's
Position
the
or
genocide
possession?
Complex. The genocide complex that keeps feeding Israel genocide. And it's the reason why Genocide Joe got his name, and Kamala said she was not going to do anything different. She was going to keep on feeding bombs and ammunition to murder and bomb babies.
All right. Thanks a lot, John.
So,
Okay.
I've done a lot of polling on that.
Yep.
And the polling has venerated out. So, number one.
I don't think it's a big issue for most Americans, is it?
Well, no, and actually it's the opposite. 70% of primary voting Democrats in Pinellas County support Israel over the Palestinian position. Mm-hmm. But we're not talking about the Palestinian position. We're talking about Hamas. But this is one of the big problems with the left, and this is not Barry Edwards. This is David Shor. This is Ezra Klein. People like that are thoughtful people that are trying to lead the intellectual revolution for your side, is that there's this false binary that you're either oppressors or the oppressed. And if you're an oppressor, and that's why the Israel, because they're more dominant, is the oppressor. But they were the ones who were attacked on October 7th. And I think we should remember that fact. And if you look at almost all the net polling, the people that support the Hamas position, first of all, are they going to vote for Donald Trump? You think he's going to be more supportive of your position? If you're really crazy, then you're going to do that. But the people that supported the Hamas position versus the Israel position, Biden got many more votes for the pro-Israel position. That's a more mainstream position, but it comes down to oppressor and oppressed, and I think that's a false narrative that the Democratic Party has got to get out of.
It's an important issue. It's a serious issue. It's a sad issue. It's a tragic issue. But I don't think it's an issue that most Democrats or Republicans are voting on.
But I will tell you, there's some younger Democrats, some younger people in our community who also have to understand politics better. The choice wasn't in this last election to vote for somebody who was going to side with the Palestinians or side with Israel.
Right.
The choice was, do you want somebody who's going to side with Israel who is going to not care a bit about what the other side is saying? Right. Or do you want somebody who's going to side with Israel who has an open ear, at least, to listen to the other side? So what we got was an administration who wants to repress any free speech in regards to the pro-Palestinian side in this country. And so we weren't going to end up in this country with a pro-Palestinian government. It wasn't going to happen. And so the voters have to sometimes understand that you have to make a defensive vote. You can't make an offensive vote. And people have to understand that if you're trying to get issues dealt with, sometimes you don't win. Sometimes you just make it a little bit better. And so any voter who thought that they were voting against Joe Biden and somehow they were going to improve U.S.'s position on Palestine made a horrible mistake.
Horrible mistake.
And so while this gentleman called in, and I am happy that he has this opinion. I'm happy that he can voice his opinion on radio. What I'm concerned at, if he had an immigration issue at the moment, they might be coming over to his house to pick him up and ship him out. Under this administration, under the last administration, we didn't have to fear that. And so,
or if his application was pending at Harvard,
to voters sometimes is that it is a nuanced issue. It isn't just yes or no. It's sometimes, I want to advance the football a little bit. Let me do this. And so, like I said, if all those people in Dearborn, Michigan who voted for Donald Trump, I think they're regretting their vote if they're voting on this issue right now.
Right. Yeah. Hey, Barry, before you got here, we were talking about Trump and Musk breaking up. I know you have something clever and interesting to comment on that one.
Well, I think that we've seen that the president has a short shelf life with his closest advisors, and he also does not like to be wrong or challenged, and Musk is challenged. I think there's Musk was leading what I would call there's anti-MAGA, the establishment Republicans that are fiscal conservatives like myself versus the MAGAs, and Trump has never.
Are you a Dozier, Barry? Are you a Dozier?
I think everybody in America who's a patriot's a Dozier, because do you want to waste money?
Are you for waste? If I don't want to fire a whole bunch of people
No.
A Dozier.
I refer to them as Dogebags.
A
Dozier is somebody who wants
check
to.
their grandparents' papers, see if they got over here illegally.
A Dozier is somebody who wants to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse.
And Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
No. That's not part of Doge. That's a lie. And I know that you were obviously had horrible staff work to tell you that, because that's not true.
Oh my God!
So this is. I think there's a hemorrhage in here. But it's funny. We talk about the hemorrhages in the Republican Party because they obviously control all orders of government at the national level, but at the state level, I never see the press writing about the civil wars within the Democratic Party. Today, as we speak, right now, the Democratic National Committee is voting to oust a gay white man and a gay black man as vice chairmen of the Democratic Party because they said that they should challenge people in primaries. And so they're using their parliamentary procedures. So at the national level, there's a hemorrhage within the DNC, which the Florida delegates, by the way, are all supporting David Hogg and Mr. Kaneda.
All right,
Generally, we don't talk about the back of the field. We talk about the front runners at the moment. It's the Republicans. So why are we talking about the Democrats?
All right, Nancy's going to give us one more try. Nancy, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'd like to go back to the state level talk.
Okay.
Okay, only because I have a prediction, which is this business about the taxation, the property taxes going away. It was a terrible idea, as you said, because of what it funds here. And I don't think has anybody said anything about Trump and the whole thing about the states are going to now take the disaster relief burden, and because he doesn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. He doesn't want to have anything to do with any of the taxes going for to pay for federal things.
I think I heard that the FEMA guy wasn't aware that that hurricane actually had seasons.
I know, and then they tried to cover that up. So and the stuff about Doge and about Trump. Come on, it's one of those things. They like to get together and come up with schemes, and one part, somebody has one part, somebody has the other part. Kind of like good cop, bad cop. And then they see who, if anybody's going to believe it. And they, stick to the wall.
Well, they want to keep us all distracted while they pass really wonderful bills. Nancy, thanks for listening. Thanks for calling.
And one of the problems I think we have for the Democrats is, and this is Ezra Klein and David Shore again, is that the Democratic Party now views their success when they spend money on things. $42 billion on rural Wi-Fi expansion, not a single home hooked up because they paid it to NGOs and nonprofits that stole the money. $1.7 billion for new power stations for charging electric vehicles, 17 set up. So that's $44 billion for 17 power stations. And the Democratic Party goes, we spent $44 billion. You wasted it. That's what people are pissed off.
Barry,
that's why people aren't voting for you.
That money was coming down as grants to the states, and the states had to spend that money.
The rural Wi-Fi went down to NGOs and
I'm talking about the charging stations. Our governor here has not released any of that money. There was a lot of companies on the I-4 corridor who wanted that money to put charging stations at their gas stations, and the governor would not have released that money. So, you have to be fair here, Barry. And frankly, I think you're talking about the negatives about the Democratic Party. You're distracting from the fact that Republicans are running the country at the moment, and they're failing. That's the big issue, not what the Democrats did 3 or 4 years ago. The issue is what the Republicans are doing now.
54% approval for Donald Trump in Florida, 53% for.
I don't approve of
We've got the phones are ringing like crazy. Christina has been very patient. Christina, you are on.
Good morning, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can. How you doing?
Okay, excellent. I'm doing
And by the way, you're listening to WMNF. I'm John Dingfelder. This is Down and Dirty. Patrick Montega and Barry Edwards are here to join us. So what's up, Christina?
Okay, I'm going to speak quickly and then hang up so I can hear your commentary. I'm actually driving to the League of Women Voters annual conference in Orlando. So,
good for you.
God bless you.
Thank you. So I'm really enjoying the conversation today on my drive. One thing I want to start off with is, Barry, the gentleman Barry, I want to respectfully disagree with something you said earlier in terms of making an analogy between education in the state of New York and in Florida. I've been lucky to have lived half of my adult life in New York and half of my adult life in Florida. So I can speak from direct experience of what I've experienced in both areas.
Well, you sound half educated anyway. I'm just teasing you.
Sorry, that's okay. But my cousin, and I actually am a former educator in the state of Florida. I was a high school drama teacher and film teacher for 12 years in public schools. A lot of my cousins are educators up in New York City. When I tell them that my 4-year-old daughter, that I have been paying for tuition, full-time tuition for her to attend preschool since she was 2 years old, so that I can work full-time, they are in shock. Because in New York City, PPK, early child care, is 100% paid for by the city.
As it should
please
be.
Tell me, as it should be. So why should Floridian parents be penalized because they have to work full-time to pay their mortgage or their rent? So tell me how on earth Florida could be winning in terms of education. Additionally, my mother didn't even go to college. She went to a business high school in New York City, came down to Florida, opened her own real estate company, and was a rock star realtor for a number of years without even a college education. That's how good the education is in New York. They're codifying DEI programs. There's attack in Florida on books and African American history. That is being protected in New York City. That's stealing from the kids when you try to take these things away from the kids. Books, African American history. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing, as far as the Democratic Party, I do agree the message really does need to change. And I think that if the Democratic Party were to take the main subject area of trying to protect Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, things like that, and put their focal point on protecting the working class and the middle class, that goes across party lines.
Yep.
That's nonpartisan. Everybody can relate to that. And I think that's where the Democratic Party is making a mistake by not making that area their focal point area, because it's going to bleed into other positive areas like social justice and what have you, education.
All right, Christina, we appreciate you listening. Thanks for the call, and thanks for those good thoughts.
John, you should put her on instead of me and Barry. She's pretty sharp.
So, well, let's talk about some of these issues. Number one, if education when my parents were in New York in the 50s was great. The SUNY college system was great.
It wasn't here in Florida.
It was not, but we had Governor Graham.
We had a low taxation system. We were a cheap state to live in, just like the rest of the South.
The University of Florida, we now, and the USF just became a member of the international, the Association of the Research Institutions.
Sure.
So our universities in Florida are now competitive. Florida State,
sure.
USF. So we were, but that was 40 years ago. Let's talk about today. Our universities are on the rise.
We supported
right, and the last 24 years, you just told me the Republicans were in charge. So the last 24 years, the Republicans have raised Florida State,
I think he was focused on K through 12 is what the talk was, Barry.
And really we were. But Barry, you talk a lot of numbers, but really this is about faces. There are faces behind all these numbers.
Why are 6,800 people leaving New York every week?
There are mothers today who can't go to work because the price between daycare and work is so, and what they make is so close that it isn't worthwhile to do it. And so we are hurting people. And this is about people, Barry. It isn't about numbers sometimes.
It is about people. 6,800 people leaving New York State every week. 4,800 coming to Florida. It's not because it's cold. It's because your property taxes in New York are 100%
We've only got a few minutes. We're going to take some calls.
So if we're going to talk about people, let's talk about why they're leaving when they say, because we can't afford the taxes in New York State.
Hey, John and Dunedin, can you help me out? These guys are going crazy.
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for the call, or thanks for this show.
Real quick.
I want to call back to the Doge people. Do you have any evidence of waste, fraud, and abuse? Hard evidence, not Facebook posts. Also, do you not think the birthday parade that Donald Trump wants to have is not waste, fraud, and abuse?
There's absolutely the Republicans. I'm a big critic of them too. But let's talk about the $42 billion was identified by David Shore, the chief intellectual architect of the Obama campaign, or the $42 billion for the rural Wi-Fi expansion.
You mentioned that 4 times. He's talking about the Doge and laying off. That
was one of the things that Doge identified, and but the Democrats.
What did it have to do with the Department of Education? All that funding, all those people being fired.
That's a different topic. There's
Let's talk about that.
How about
Let's talk about the waste and fraud and abuse.
How about Newark air traffic controllers?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling, John. All right, let's take one last one. Rufus in Seffner. How's things in Seffner? Patrick, you were from Seffner, somewhere up there. Antioch, excuse me.
Yeah. Seffner's a lot bigger.
Oh, okay. Is that a suburb of Seffner? Rufus, are you there?
Yes, I am. How you guys doing?
We're wild and woolly this morning.
Yeah, I'm hearing that, and I'm liking it. And Patrick, I've known Patrick for a long time. Many years ago, I worked with him a little bit on political stuff when I was a assistant business manager at IBW Local.
All right.
Oh, fantastic. Good union guy.
Good for you. I thought maybe you were a chicken farmer.
No. Everything's good, and again, I'm not going to contribute much, but it's interesting. I mean, everybody can pick a subject to talk about, to crow about. Some groups have a little more to crow about than others, but while there may be people leaving other states, I lived in Florida the majority of my life. I lived 15 years in the Carolinas, in Tennessee. But I do know what I came back to in 2000. And I know what my taxes were in Tennessee. I knew what my insurance was in Tennessee. I knew what my expenses were in Tennessee. And I came back to Florida when I retired in 2000. And I'm going to go back and say, a party, it can't be denied. And I appreciate what y'all guys do on Fridays. I was happy to support y'all last week. And I'm looking forward to more good work in the future.
Well, thank you, Rufus. We appreciate it. Go easy on the cuss words. And by the way, our fundraising drive last week was successful. Thanks for all you who contributed, and go Unions.
John, I want to say something that, while we've been getting into here a little bit and we have loud voices, there's a smile on everybody's face in this room.
True that.
And and that's really what's wrong with all of this, is that you ought to have spirited debate. You ought to have this. But at the end of the day, I don't think Barry's evil. I disagree with him on a lot of things. And I'm happy to argue with him till I'm blue in the face. But the real problem is that we treat each other like we're evil, like somehow we're anti-American, and we should really stay away from that rhetoric. I've been married a long time, and you have to set boundaries on how you argue. You can't call each other names. And frankly, I think parties and Americans should set boundaries on how they argue with each other. Just because you believe one thing doesn't mean you're un-American. It doesn't mean you're not patriotic. And so I think if you stay away from that language, we can talk about this all day long and actually do what democracy is about, and that's debate and figure out what's better.
Well, it's a whole nother subject, but social media, I think, has contributed greatly to that, because you can be ugly and nasty from the anonymity of your deep, dark bedroom.
One final thing for the Democrats, which every one of my Republican friends in Republican leadership wants the Democratic Party to be more successful, because then you don't have the Republican Party keeps going farther to the right because they don't think they're going to be challenged in generals. If they thought they could lose, then they would have to go back toward the middle. Here's an example of a disconnect between the leadership and the party. 69% of Democratic primary voters, according to the New York Times, were against biological males competing in sports with biological females. Yet 47 U.S. senators, all Democratic U.S. senators, voted for that. And that's a disconnect. So you have the base of the party says we don't believe in this. We think that it's not fair. And people like Gavin Newsom are getting that position now. But the leadership of the party voting the other way. And so I think that's a big problem. And another thing, the Democratic Party has to start to reflect and look like the state of Florida. There are currently 10 state senators. 6 of them are African American that are Democrats. 60%. 2 are Jewish women, 20%. 1 is a white woman who's a heterosexual, and 1 is a gay black or gay Hispanic. That does not reflect Florida. You have to reflect Florida if you expect to win and govern.
Sure. Part of that, though, is district design. It's hard to have competitive races when you design districts to not be competitive. And so if the Republicans really would like a stronger Democratic Party, how about giving us a break when you draw the lines?
Yeah. All right, we have one of our loyal listeners calling in. It'll be our last call, and we've only got a second or two to hear from her. Layla and Brandon.
Leela.
I always mess that up.
That's okay. You're forgiven. I just wanted to welcome everybody for this year's 4th of July parade in Brandon, and send a shout out to our local county partners that help us put on the 4th of July parade every year. And
Patrick, you have Temple Terrace 4th of July, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of places to celebrate 4th of July. Brandon's parade's a lot bigger, though.
All right.
Yeah, so we do have a new route that's going to be a lot shadier, and our judging area will be at the music showcase so that we are close to the hospital. And we're looking forward. Coca-Cola opened its 800,000 square foot facility on 301. and we're going to hopefully have them in the parade. We've got the Rough Riders, we've got the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the marching bands. You guys make a show of it. Come out, do a float, have fun.
All right. Shout out to the Brandon 4th of July parade. Everybody check it out. And what day is that on?
That's
No, I'm
on
just
the
kidding.
One final response to Mr. Manteiga here.
Layla, talk to you soon.
We're talking about parade. Let me just say, on the parades, what's great about the 4th of July parades are they're not our big commercial Gasparilla parades. You do see Boy Scouts.
Not a
and
drunken
little
affair.
trailers and, and it's a very wholesome thing.
Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. Pat Manteiga, Barry Edwards, Skip, Irene, had a great show. We'll see you next week. We're going to be talking about the president's parade on the 14th and what we can do about it on the something like that. Anyway, that's next week.
WMNF Tampa.